Hey, folks. Hi, this is Rick Wallace, your host of the Sports Affiliation Give Back show, where we try to show off all of the good that people are doing in the fantasy football world. Lots of folks are running charity leagues and charity events, and each week we try to highlight one of those so that we're able to perhaps get inspired ourselves to get more involved by either joining a fantasy league or by taking part in an event, or even perhaps we'll get inspired to actually do something like our own league or own event. So tonight, really happy to have Mike Reedy, um, um, well known in the fantasy space, talk about something that he's very involved in, and that is the NFL Fantasy Playoff Challenge Charity League, which benefits the Ride Hard, Breathe Easy, a nonprofit dedicated to supporting lung cancer patients and their caregivers. So, hey, Mike, welcome to the Give Back Show.
Thanks so much for having me on, Rick. I appreciate this a lot.
Oh, it's a pleasure, and in fact, as someone who's followed you for a while now, both on the fantasy side, I'm really looking forward to learning more about yourself, but also learning more about, and more importantly, about the charity that you're involved in. So, so why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself?
All right. I grew up in the Boston area, just literally like on top of Boston, in Everett, Massachusetts. I don't have much of a Boston accent. You're probably noticing. I did. People that I get back in touch with that I grew up with sometimes don't realize that I'm the same person voice wise because of it. But done a lot of work traveling around the country and around the world, and I I literally present mostly for a living, so I speak. I was a stand-up trainer, and I learned that I had to speak clearly, so I didn't try to get rid of my Boston accent. I saw Joe popping in there. He grew up with me. Um, I didn't purposely try to lose my Boston accent. I just tried to speak more clearly so people could understand me. But I work in SAP consulting. I've been doing that for a long time. The white hair can tell you that it's evidently supposed to be a stressful job. I don't get stressed out much though. Um, and Through that, I ended up working for SAP itself at one time, and I had an opportunity to go internal and join a team. And my boss, his name's John Matthews. He's the founder of Ride Hard, Breathe Easy. He's no longer my boss. Neither one of us works there anymore. But he's a great guy, and we stayed in touch. And we were having a conversation about something once, and I had mentioned how I'm involved in the fantasy football community. And we can get to that. That was an interesting piece as well. It's weird how you get involved in this community. And I said, hey, I run a playoff challenge for free. Maybe we can charge and give half the money to the charity and half the money to people who win. And John thought that was a great idea. Of course, anybody who runs a charity where everybody's 100% volunteer, any way they can get money seems like a great idea, right? The charity, what they do is they use the money to help alleviate pain and stress for people going through cancer treatments. His mother had passed away from cancer, and they work with hospitals. They started in the Philadelphia area where he's from, and they've been branching out since then and expanding. So there's a list of hospitals. I'm sorry, I don't have it in front of me. John probably uh, tell me I should have been better prepared. But there's a list of hospitals that they work with directly, and they do things to help give rides to people, and just all sorts of things wherever they can to make life as easy as possible for people receiving this care. And it's a nice thing to do. His mom had passed away from breast cancer, and that's what made him want to do something to help here. And I know all the people involved in the charity. It's his family now, and the board members. on the charity are some of them are like his wife and a couple of other people I worked with. So, helping them out as best I can is the least I thought I could do, right?
Oh, that's great. And we're going to dive a lot more into the charity league and the charity itself in a little bit. But we are a fantasy football channel, so I always like to try to learn a little bit more about the guest and learn a little bit more about the teams they root for, and hopefully help myself get to be better as I'm starting to approach drafts and the like. You said you're from the Boston area, and you do have a little bit of a Boston accent,
Oh,
but
yeah.
do you root for the Patriots? Is that your team?
I am definitely a Patriots fan. I have been my whole life. And what people don't understand, I know we had a dynasty for a long time, but they weren't very good before that. So, we were kind of the equivalent to Jets fans, just
Mhm.
you had a good team, it ended in misery. It was just brutal. So, we were spoiled for a while, and now we're back to where we were before, right? So,
No, but again, and in fact, I was going to ask you, what are your thoughts about 2025? What sort of, what are your expectations for the team this year, and even going forward?
So, I wanted them to sign Vrabel last year to be the head coach when they didn't. And they promoted Mayo, and I understand Kraft likes to promote guys from within, et cetera. Vrabel's probably a better head coach. But,
Probably.
you know, um, probably a better head coach, and he demanded some say in personnel because of his experience in Tennessee, right, where
Sure.
they traded away guys like AJ Brown. So, I know a lot of people in the area were down on, say, the Patriots drafts the past couple of years, where I wasn't. They've been trying to actually make the team better, and I didn't hate them. This year's draft, I really like a lot, right? You
Yeah, it
you
was
got
great.
an offensive lineman with the first pick. You have a running back that gets hurt often, and Stevens, as much as I love him, he does. So you drafted a running back in the second round and a wide receiver in the third round with Williams. I really like them. They loaded up on defensive players and I think one or two more tackles, and then they signed another running back as a free agent that I like. I like what they're doing, right? So I think they're headed in the right direction. There's a lot of optimism in the Patriots community online, by the way, where people think, yeah, they're going to be in the playoffs. Like, well, let's just hope they're competing for a playoff spot, right? And enjoy the
Sure.
ride, not go crazy with
Yeah.
the expectations here.
And you mentioned the first pick being offensive line, and I'm sure part of the importance of that is to protect, their really,
Drake May.
their fantastic young, quarterback May. So, any thoughts on where he progresses or how much you're expecting him to progress this in a second?
Uh, Signing Stefan Diggs and I think some of the rookie wide receivers will probably take a little bit of a step forward from last year. I'm hoping, but I like what they're doing. They need a good offensive line, as does every team in the league, right? Like the seems to be the teams with the best offensive lines are the best teams. Eagles, hello, right?
Mhm.
It just seems to be that way. So having depth there and talent really helps. I know lots of people are picking on the first round pick, right? Saying he has like T-Rex arms, but the kid's good and he can play. Um, Drake May with better protection is probably going to be better this year and take a step forward. There's a lot of people locally that they don't think he's as good as he is, and I want to say things like, "Have you watched the games? Like the whole team was better when he was on the field." I know statistically you can compare him to guys who aren't great, but the team was significantly better on offense with him on the field, and he's exciting to watch. So, it should be at least it's gonna be fun again, right?
Yeah.
That's
And one of the things, again, they drafted two wide receivers last year. Didn't see much, if anything, from either of those. And they've also got Pops, who's still there, who, I think is a pretty decent, and I think he's only like 23 or 24 years
He's
old
only
now.
a kid too. Yeah, he's not very old, Douglas.
Yeah.
The kids last year, I mean, sometimes I think expectations are way too high for rookie wide receivers. I took an awful lot of heat from the Chicago Bears fans in their community last off season because I would say in early June or mid June, I said Odunze the third option in that offense, and they came at me hard, man. And I'm like, this is for fantasy purposes, like. There's two wide receivers who are better than him.
Yeah.
I'm not saying he's bad. I'm just saying he's probably going to be like third on the team in targets.
And
Uh,
especially with a rookie quarterback who,
yeah,
is going to tilt towards the established wide receivers. So, yeah, I think you're right that the um, the expectations even for Odunze. But I think one of the things that led to that, and Harmon does that great series of reception perception
yeah,
spider graphs that and it was like, oh, it was the first time there's been an all green ever type of led to a lot of the excitement about Rome, and yeah, it was a tough spot.
in all honesty, it's unfair, right? And in our community, we do it a lot with rookies. We're hoping everybody will be Jamar Chase, and they're not going to be. Look at poor Marvin Harrison. I I wasn't for drafting him in the second round. And people talking like he was a complete flop. I mean,
No, he had over
800,
800 yards.
he had
Yeah,
over 800 yards.
8 touchdowns. I mean, that's a pretty decent rookie season.
It's kind of like your expectations shouldn't have been 1,600 yards, right?
Yeah,
He's a rookie. He's still going to be one of the top two targets on that team again this year. He's probably going to take a step forward. The kid's great, but let's be a little more patient with the rookies. Not everything is dynasty, and redraft guys. You can't wait 3 years for a kid to blast off. So, you know, just be a little careful. Look at the opportunity in the landing spot with rookies and make decisions based off of that for this season.
and you did add another running back, and I think Stevenson, who I think had just gotten extended or had a big second contract. Um, but I think that there was a fumbling issue or something that seemed
You
to
think
hit him, kind of like the Antonio Gibson, effect from the Washington team. So, but what sort of split are you expecting? As someone who's drafted Travion Henderson in a league, I'm kind of curious where you're seeing the splits go.
So we'll know more obviously after the first couple of games during training camp. I would expect Stevenson still to be the lead, right? At least to start the season. We'll see. The rookie's going to get a chance, though. I think there's opportunity, right? And
Mm,
the other running back, Gibson. I mean, he played really really good when he in spurts, but that's kind of what he does too, right? Like
yeah.
I think you're gonna see kind of a committee here, maybe with all three getting used here and there, and not just one back taking over, which for us kind of
And
stinks.
that seems to be really the way a lot of teams are going anyway, that they want to be able to extend a running back, through at least the second year. And also, they try to find, I don't know what they call it, lightning and thunder type running backs where, and in the Patriots, I would think they would see Henderson as being the speed back, especially one who you want to get the ball out into the flat and let him work with it. And I think maybe Stevenson might be seen more as the hammer, where he's going to be doing a lot of the goal line work.
As long as he can, have stickier fingers and hold on to that ball, he can be the hammer for a little while. If he
Yeah,
starts dropping it, there's no way they're gonna keep him on the field. I mean, you can't, right? It is what it is.
and also, again, this is a new regime. And Stevenson came in from the old regime, and Henderson. Obviously, there was a big investment to draft him. So hopefully, that might start to show a shift towards more of a split
I,
favoring
I,
Henderson.
I think it will. I think we're going to see one thing with this coaching staff kind of go backwards a little bit with the trend of them being kind of overly direct and tough with what's going on. You're not going to get a lot of second and third chances. Like you're either going to work hard and produce or you're not going to play. Um, I like that. I think that's good.
And that's the way it should be too, because again, you deliver on the field, and if you do that, you get to earn your time. And again, it doesn't matter if you're a first round pick or you're a third day pick. You want to deliver on the field and not just rely on. And I think we saw a quarterback that slipped through the draft or slipped later into the draft than everyone expected. Reflecting that he now has some work to do, and if he shows it on the field, he is the most. I mean, at least in my opinion, he's the most talented quarterback among the 6, 7 different quarterbacks in Cleveland. But hopefully he gets his head on straight and just hunkers down, learns the playbook, and he'll get his chance at that point. Any other people that you liked in the draft that may not have gone to New England, but we got people who are already in their first sets of rookie drafts in their dynasty league. So any others people that you liked a lot?
Where there's value, I mean, so you're seeing a lot of running backs that have potential and have decent landing spots this year. And I'm in one dynasty league only, and the rookie draft's happening right now. And the guy with the 12th pick in the first round and the first pick in the second round has actively tried to trade out of those and trade back because, there's a lot of talent to be had, probably close to or equivalent to what you're going to get there. I think overall it's pretty damn good draft for a value. I kind of bashed Shador Sanders quite a bit on social media in people's eyes, not my own eyes. I like him. I don't think he was a top 5 pick. I don't think he should have been a first round pick. I think there was a lot of propaganda and a lot of marketing from his dad and from ESPN and friends to try to push him up there, like a Bronny James situation. Let's see if we can get my kid drafted early. Let's see if we can get him drafted early, early, early. He's good. He's not great. I think if you're in the third or fourth round of your rookie draft, he's somebody I would definitely consider, especially in a super flex league or 2 quarterback league. I'd pick because he could come out of the pack in Cleveland, and it's you know you're gonna start rolling the dice, right? Roll the dice big on somebody who has the chance to give you a lot of impact. Uh,
Well, it's obvious that you're a sharp analyst, and I think you're with Optimus Fantasy. Is that
so,
the group
well,
you're?
Fantrax will get mad at me.
Uh,
So I'm at Fantrax. This will be my third season with Fantrax.
awesome.
This will be my second year with Optimus as well. So um, Nick Scripps over at Fantrax, and he's one of the hardest working guys in the business. And I was at the Undroppables, and I had been, in touch with Nick, and he's a young guy who works really hard. So I
He
wanted
does.
an
He
opportunity.
grinds. He's
Yeah, so I kind of wanted an opportunity to go there and help him if I could in any way, shape, or form, right? So I went from the Undroppables to Fantrax, and Nate Polvote over at Optimus is somebody who I've been friendly with since I joined the community, and we've been trying to find ways to work together since we both became analysts. And finally, he opened up his own place and said, "Hey, you want to come do a couple of shows with me a week?" And I jumped at the chance because I love Nate to bits, and he's another really hardworking guy in the industry, right? Who's grinding. So I do a DFS show with Nate and a waiver wire show with Nate. Uh, And then over at Fantrax, I have a couple of DFS articles and a weekend waiver wire article. So,
Boy, so you're doing a lot of grinding yourself. It sounds like you're
yeah. Oh,
pretty busy.
that's not all. My day job, I'm a co-founder of a boutique consulting firm based out of the U.S., Bulgaria, and India. So all I do is work. I actually told my friends my biggest problem is my hobbies seem to just be more work.
Yeah. Actually, maybe I could ask, what got you into fantasy football to begin with, or how long have you been doing this?
So I've been playing fantasy football for right around 20 or so years, a little more than 20 years, I think. I worked for IBM at the time, and a bunch of guys I worked with had a league, and someone bailed like 3 days before the draft, and they asked me if I would take the spot, so I did.
Yeah.
I One of my very best friends has been playing fantasy for God 30 something years, and I used to make fun of him all the time for playing fantasy. You nerd! Oh, I can't believe you do that. And then I said, "Oh man, the guys I work with, I like them. They asked me to join and help them out." So I said, "Okay, you got to teach me how to play." And he did. And then the following year, I didn't get invited back to the work league. So I started my own league, but I asked a bunch of friends who I knew were really good and had won championships. And that league's been going ever since, the league I run. And I joined the fantasy community on Twitter in like 2014 to just try to get better,
Mhm.
become a better player. And I at the time there was a new website and somebody asked me if I'd write there, and I did for one season, and my kids were younger and they're grown up now, and I was like, I can't do this. This takes way too much time, right? Like I can't do this. I bounced back into the fantasy community in like 2020 or 2019. And I don't know if you know Doug, the Fantasy Moose,
Yep.
and Jake DeBeasy. Well, those guys were part of the Undroppables when it was just getting started, and I had threads about moneymakers and heartbreakers and some other stuff. And they told the two guys that were starting the Undroppables, like, "Hey, you might ask this guy if you're looking for a writer to bring his moneymakers and heartbreakers thread over." And they asked me if I could write something, so I did. Like, that sometimes people see a thread with just names and think there's no research. And these guys were like, "Oh my God, you actually researched all those players." Yeah, I didn't just throw out names and hope people click like, and I've just been engulfed since, and I look at this stuff as there's a lot of the good analysts do, even if when you're working for free like I was, and I still do some work for free, obviously. Like, you have to treat it like something someone would want to buy. If the quality is so low that you wouldn't be willing to pay for that article or that show, don't do it. If you're just spinning your wheels and wasting your time, like, do something that has some quality to it.
Well, and you mentioned adult age kids, and as someone who also has adult age kids, two daughters, do you want to at least give them a shout out, since I know how much between work and fantasy football and charity leagues, and other things that you like to do outside of the home, that there's a lot of time that you're unfortunately missing out with family and friends. So if you want to give them a shout out, because I
I will. My oldest, her name's Nicole. She is married and lives in Arizona and just gave me my first grandchild. Um,
awesome,
my
congratulations.
Thank you. She's only three weeks old tomorrow.
Oh, wow.
Uh, my son Connor is my middle child. Connor won. He joined a dynasty league last year and won it the first year. And I think he has 2 seasons of redraft league now with his friends and made it to the championship one year there too. So I I I got somebody else that's playing fantasy now, in the family. And my youngest, her name's Emily. She graduated college a year ago, so she's 23. And but they're all grown up.
Yeah. And I tell you, as someone whose daughters are 31 and 26, that, I think back to all the times where, I came home from work and I was tired and grumpy and, you know, and I open up the door and one or both of the girls come screaming down the hallway saying, "My daddy's home." That's the best cure of hard day or bad day at work. So, I still get to see them often. And so and it's a different type of my daddy's home, but it's still great to have that contact with them. And
Oh, it is. I love my kids tremendously, right? So it's, I think they know that. I did see a meme that hit home the other day though, man, right here in the fields where it said, "You can tell a lot of you never had had your dad make you cry when he was trying to help you with math homework." And
yeah.
I was like, that may have been me. Um,
I have to admit, I started to track how far into their schooling I was able to help with, and then pretty soon I was having to rely on my oldest daughter to help my youngest daughter because it was like, the way they kind of advanced the learning process to the
so
point where I remember in my kindergarten class, if I didn't cry during the entirety of the school year, they considered that an A. That was a successful kindergarten year. And now they're having to, they're already in preschool, they're learning numbers and they're learning letters and even, how to draw out or, write out script. And I know my wife was a preschool teacher, and she had them doing robotics and had a speaker from NASA talk about rocket science. And it's just like, this is in preschool. And, again, I think back to my time in school and, gee, if I, didn't get yelled at for not sitting in my seat or something, that was,
I
that was
was
a
busy
passing
trying
grade.
to I was busy trying to keep some kid from eating crayons across.
Oh,
Like,
that didn't work.
"Stop eating crayons, you're grossing me out." You know?
Well, I'll have to tell you sometime in the future about how I found a snake and brought it into school with me. But that's okay. The purpose of this show is really more to talk about what you're doing in not only in fantasy, but also as a charity that you're working in. And so, what led you to doing the NFL Playoff Challenge?
So, what's depressing about it is that NFL.com used to have the NFL Playoff Challenge on it, and I loved it. I loved playing that there. It's a game where you get, multipliers. So, if you pick guys who are playing on, say, the Chiefs as on your team and they keep winning and they make it to the Super Bowl, you're going to get their score times 4, right? So the real winners every year is somebody who picked the most players on the team that wins the Super Bowl or that at least makes it to the Super Bowl. We now play it on secondseason.com. They copied the game because NFL.com shut it down. And I know people like myself. I had a pretty large game happening there, and then what's the name of those guys that do the podcast? They ran one with thousands of people on
Wow.
NFL.com as well, and it was kind of sad to see it go because it was such a good game. But secondseason.com has it now. It's the same game. It's the user interface is okay. I thank them just for creating it.
So
So
second season is the platform as opposed to Sleeper or MFL or
that's the only platform I found that ran the playoff challenge the same way as NFL.com did. What
wow.
they did was they copied the game, right? Like the thought process for the game. When NFL.com shut it down, these guys must have said, "No, we like that game," and built it. So that's where we play. It's The tournament is run by myself, John Matthews, who is the guy who founded Ride Hard, Breathe
Mhm.
Easy. My daughter, who's a new mom, works for me at my company.
Nice. I was going to ask if you had family that's involved in this. So
So she's
jump right
involved in
into
this, and his nephew is. So we have a team of 4 people, because many hands make work lighter.
it. Mhm.
Where it becomes challenging sometimes is in the fantasy community, people are like, I paid and I didn't get an invite. Okay, well, it's not
Mhm.
automatic.
Mhm.
It's not automatic, and these people all have jobs, and like they're not constantly monitoring this. I'll get it all situated for you. Don't worry, because I'm the
Right.
person everybody reaches out to, right? So, um, but everybody who plays is a good sport. I would say the vast majority of people who play come back every single year. We get, some drop off and some new people. I'm trying to get it back up to over 100 people. The last 2 years, by the way, this last season, we had a tail off. Instead of more people playing, we had less. And I think it has something to do with the algorithms on X, where I kind of
Mhm.
vanished from people's feeds and they just didn't see me anymore.
Wow. Okay. So you said 100 people play, and are these in 10 people divisions, or
No,
is
no,
it
no. It's
everybody's playing
it's
against each
everybody's playing against everybody, and you get to see
crazy?
and there's different strategies. When I played it for free one year, I won it, and I won it by playing guys that had buys week one. My whole lineup was people who had buys, so that I got double their points the next week. And I was lucky enough where I picked teams that kept winning, you know. Um, that's not that simple. I mean, this year the team that won it was one of those Philadelphia Eagles fans from John Matthews' family, and he had like all Eagles all the way through, you know.
Not a
Uh,
bad team to have players from,
it
but
wasn't at all, right? It worked. So that's all that counts. There is some obviously luck involved. I know lots of analysts want to remove luck and they're like, try to make it so it's all skill based. And I say things like, no,
make it
keep
fun.
it so it's fun, right? Like, what do you mean? Listen, if there's still some luck, it's still fun. Don't you care when you lose? The league I run, of the past 3 seasons, I have been the number 1 team going into the playoffs 2 out of the past 3 seasons. Do you know who lost in the first round both of those times? I did, to the
Yeah,
8th to, like, an 8th seed, right? And people like, "And that doesn't make you mad?" No, it makes it fun for us
it
because
does.
everybody has a chance all the time.
It's a
Everybody
game
has
based on a game that adult kids
Yeah.
play, and it's with an oblong ball that if it hits the ground at this angle, it bounces kind of that way, and it goes this way. It's an imperfect game that is going to be luck based in lots of different ways, and that's what makes it interesting. Otherwise, shoot, we would just have Kansas City Chiefs and the Philadelphia Eagles play every year in the Super Bowl, although it's kind of that way. It's overly,
I
but
I'm happy to hear you say that because, like, I'm like, "No, embrace the variance, embrace
that's
it. It
right.
makes it more fun. Get rid of kickers." Listen, the guy whose team sucks, but his kicker scored 25 points this week, and he beat a team that's good. Dude, it's alright. It's the regular season. It makes it more enjoyable for him and everybody else. Like, and people like,
Oh,
"Well, don't make it
I
more
agree.
enjoyable if you lost," but I'm like, "No, the whole league, it's more fun. It
I
makes
love
people talk more
kickers.
trash. It's just all around fun."
So it's kind of like, and is this a best ball or a managed league, or how would
It's
you
managed
describe?
weekly, but if you set like once you set a lineup, so say like this year, I had Patrick Mahomes in my lineup, and I did.
Hmm?
He was somebody I picked because I thought the Chiefs would go deep into the playoffs. And so he has a bye week one, you have no score. If he scores 20 points week two, you get 40 because
Hmm.
there's a multiplier. If
Okay.
he scores 20 points week three, you get 60 because of the multiplier.
Nice.
He's been in your lineup 3 weeks, so now you get 3 times the score. So, you don't want to switch players out, but when they lose, you can put a new player in, but then you only get 1 time that player's score.
Oh,
So
okay, so that's the multiplier is that keeping with a lineup that is going to get you more of that multiplicated
yep, and
score.
that's why
Nice.
Mr. Eagles fan there, and there was a few, but Mr. I played all Eagles who won it. It was multiplier, multiplier, multiplier all the way through, where some of us didn't think certain teams would make it there, like the Eagles, and it cost us dearly. Um,
So along with the multiplier, are there any other unique or different scorings or rules that you have in place that makes
uh,
it a little bit more unique?
I don't know if there's anything that makes it really more unique than that. I think the multiplier alone makes it drastically more difficult to win. And anybody who wins it and says they weren't lucky is a complete liar. They were lucky. It's very hard to win. I mean, some really sharp guys play. Joe Carlton plays in it. He's a very sharp guy. He's a great player. It's just difficult. Dennis Mickelson plays in it every single year.
Oh, Dennis, yeah, he's
Right?
well,
He's a great fantasy player and he's a great analyst, and he'll tell you the same thing. He won it when it was free one year when I was sending out prizes. It's just it's difficult to win, and for me, kind of makes it more fun, you know?
yeah.
Uh, you know.
And do you have like a draft every year? This obviously isn't
So on this platform,
dynasty.
there's no draft. What you do is when you have access to it and we know what the playoff matchups are once they're released by the NFL, you go and you set your lineup and you can literally pick anybody you want
and,
and
and
play them.
no like you use it
No
this week.
salary
You can't use
cap.
it.
Yep, nothing. And
Nice.
and and you would think that makes it easier, but it doesn't.
Well, especially if you want to take advantage of the multiplier, um, and you're stacking and doing things like
And
that to it.
and your strategy really has to be take advantage of the multiplier as best you can. And if you don't, you're not going to have a chance, right? If you think you're going to play a bunch of teams week one and they all lose, oh man, it's brutal. Week two, you're like, I'm going to fall way behind now. And lots of teams, like, I mean, one year I did really well. I didn't win it, but I didn't play anybody week one. Everybody I was playing was for a multiplier. So I had 0 points. I was in last place. And one of my friends, the guy who taught me how to play fantasy football, said, "What the hell are you doing? Did you forget to set your lineup?" And I'm like, "No, I just played all guys on bye this week from top seeded teams so I can get double multipliers next week. You'll see." And by
Well,
week three, I shot way up because I was getting triple points. So it's
well, this that sounds super fun, but again, kind of important to also highlight how or what this is being used to raise awareness and also raise money and monetary awareness. So why don't you tell us a little bit about the Ride Hard, Breathe Easy charity and how you became. I think you mentioned a former manager or boss of yours that
yeah,
was involved with it.
he was my boss at SAP, um, in what was once called Sales University. I I joined it out of consulting. They were looking to do an implementation, and I joined to be the project manager um, for that implementation. And I worked for John for I don't know 4 years, roughly about 4 years, and we did a lot of good things at SAP too. But he started this after his mother passed away. I think I mentioned how originally he rode across country and people made donations based off of the ride. One of his nephews is doing that this year, and you can make donations if you'd like to in regards to that ride as well at Ride Hard, Breathe Easy. Um, you can find them on Twitter as well. I don't think they're crazy active on X like the fantasy football guys, but they're also on X. Uh, They do, if you live in like the Philadelphia area or any place where it's legal, they do a monthly wine tasting thing where you can join and they send a box of wines and do a Zoom session where people try wine as one of their fundraisers. So, you can see we're into alcohol, pushing alcohol and gambling. I don't know what I don't know what we'll use next as something to potentially help raise some funds for helping cancer patients.
Yeah, and not only cancer patients, but also their care providers too, which is, really, really, really important. I mean, again, people sometimes, and not that you shouldn't focus on the patient or the person with whatever the ailment is, but it also impacts, family members. It impacts, and also requires people to take care of them. And, so that was one of the things I saw in the description of the charity, is that it also, looks at and tries to help those care providers, which are all important.
Yes, and as I think I stated, they have agreements with certain hospitals that they work with as well, and they keep expanding on that. So it's a growing charity. Everybody who does anything for them is a volunteer too. So any money that they earn goes into, the care or the care providers. It's not like it's spent on somebody to run the charity and things like that, which is in all honesty something I like. If I'm going to be donating to a charity, I kind of like knowing what's happening with the money versus wondering what happens with it when you send it off, right? So, I mean, lots of people say things, but some of the big charities that are out there pushing things, they're paying people to work there, and I mean, there
So
was
this goes right to the people who are,
yeah, all of it goes to the people in need. None of it goes to supporting, uh, people to do the work. It's all volunteers.
awesome. And so when does this start? Or, I mean, for the year, or is it
So the
always?
the playoff challenge will after the NFL season's coming to an end. Well, actually, I don't really push hard to get signups going until right when the fantasy season is ending. Like I won't even start marketing it myself usually until the fantasy playoffs have hit because you want to get the people thirsty for some more fantasy who either didn't make the playoffs or lost in the playoffs or um and then there's that week break where most fantasy playoffs aren't happening anymore. Week
Week
18.
18, yeah.
Yeah, that's when most people actually sign up, by the way, is that week. Um, it's just how things roll. And it's I do feel bad for people that really want to keep playing when fantasy playoffs hit and you're either out in the first round or you didn't make it at all. I always say this is why I play DFS. I can keep playing every single week.
Yeah.
Um,
And also, I think what's really cool about this is, there's a lot of charity leagues, and of course, Scott Fishbowl goes on during the regular season of football. But there's many, many others as well. But
oh,
like you said, once either you're in the playoffs and you can keep playing, or you start, I don't know, sitting on the couch and just kind of wishing. And so now you've got a great way to raise money during that time.
so some people might be just done and tired of fantasy and not want to play, and that's fine. But I only know of a couple of charities running during the NFL playoffs, right? So there's this one, there's the Baby Bowl, which I mentioned. So I'll drop Rob Norton's name just because
Mhm.
I always play in that as well. In his regular charity, I've become just a donator where I'm like, dude, I never set a lineup, so just take my money. I'll just keep donating because I like you, but I'm not gonna set a lineup anymore. Nobody cares, thank God. It's not like ruining a division or anything. If it was, I would set a lineup. But it's I always play in Scott Fishbowl as well during the regular season. I've always felt honored when I get invited
In the
to
live
that.
draft in Boston?
The live draft in Boston I go to every year. Yes.
Awesome.
Um,
And will you
that's-
also be heading out to Canton in August for the
so it's
FF?
never been, by the way. Have you? Have you been out?
No, this will be my first time going, so I'm all excited.
So
And
I've
in
never
part just to meet people, just to kind of get a chance to meet people that I see little squares of or the little circle in their Twitter handle. So
I would like to as well, and it just seems that every year work-related stuff makes it so I really can't go. I was
yeah,
talking about with Sal Lito, and he said, "Yeah, the same for me." Like, I think his first year he went was last year, and I'm like, "It makes it hard for me to make it there." And I would like to go because there's lots of people I'd like to actually talk to in person, that I like online. I'd love to meet most of the people in the sports affiliation too, right? Like you guys are people I've known quite a few of you for a while now, it seems, and never met anybody face to face. I mean,
yeah.
other than the Boston live draft, it's hard to see a bunch of fantasy guys face to face.
But the good news is, at least with the Boston one, there's a lot of people that go to
Oh
that one.
yeah,
So that's
there is. It's a big one. It's a big
yeah.
one. And
I'm coordinating the Houston one, and we're still trying to get encouraging people who want to play fantasy football, get into the Scott Fishbowl and would like to do a live draft. Come to Houston. We've got space for you, and you'll have a lot of fun.
are there any other ones going on in Texas anywhere? Like, are
There's
you?
the Dallas one. In fact, I'll be drafting in the Dallas one.
That makes it harder to
Casey
draw.
Kasem.
Then. Yeah.
Yeah, having the two, we coordinated so that we weren't having theirs is the very end of June. The one in Houston is the 12th of July. So there should be, there shouldn't be that much competition between and Texas is a large enough state. There's 4 hours driving between us, so we should be able to split the state up well. But we do want to encourage people to sign up for all of the different city live events, because then you get a chance to meet people like Mike, as well as all the other different people, famous and first timers.
It's
So
fun
yeah.
too. It is fun. Everybody's really nice. It's you'll start seeing if you haven't and you're part of the community, people posting on X. I always want to just say tweeting, even some
They
articles about
still call it tweeting.
how you should handle it. The draft in Leo. What the heck's his handle? I can't remember. I'm sorry, Leo. Put out a nice thread the other day about if you're a first timer at Scott Fishbowl, especially if you're a live draft, if you go into these drafts with like a mindset of I'm going to do zero running back, you're going to get crushed.
You have to adapt.
The adaptive draft strategy, which is one I've written about. You have to be willing to adapt to whatever's going on. One year, Jamie Calandro and I sat in our draft. Yes, Leo P. We were watching the draft board, and in the second round, Jamie and I are sitting next to each other, and we're both like, "Oh my god, everybody's doing zero running back." Well, that's good. And we both loaded up on running backs early, and still, I mean, there's a lot more wide receivers, right? So still did all right at wide receiver, and we finished at the top of the division that year. I had won my division 2 years in a row when I went into this draft talking too much crap, and I did not do well this year in Scott Fishbowl.
Well, yeah, it's funny because this past year was the sort of the year of the kick and punt returner. Scott every year does different creative ways to change the rules around and make it a lot more interesting and a lot more fun. And kick returners, and so all of a sudden, guys like Mims and all of the ones that were kick returners, but also going to have a role in the offense. They were like gold, and everyone was drafting the heck out of them. I may have drafted a kick returner who never kicked, never returned a kick. But about a couple weeks in, I got Turpin.
I'm having a complete brain fart here. I always steer right into the curve with those things and draft heavily based off of the new trend, just to try and take advantage of it. The kid from New Orleans. Oh my
Oh
God.
yeah, Shaheed.
Rashid Shaheed.
Yeah,
So I drafted him fairly early.
got hurt early on.
If he didn't get hurt, I mean, he would have been the top scorer with that scoring system. He was unbelievable.
Well, Cavante Turpin was the
He was
top scorer,
unbelievable too. Yes.
and I picked him up like the third week.
I think I had drafted him and I dropped him after a couple of bad weeks. But he was great too. There were a few kick returners that were just amazing to have.
Yeah. But and there was who's a running back for Carolina, I think, and he had like one or two really big returns. But then typically what happens is that the kicking team then figures that part out, and you're
Kick away from him as often as possible.
Yeah, especially when there was sort of like how many, a part of the equation or part of the calculation was, does the team that's playing against the returner kick into the end zone or kick through the end zone most of the time? And if all of a sudden you've got someone who's broken 2 touchdowns in previous weeks, yeah, you're not going to see a return.
No, but if you get that returner that just gets, I don't know, 50 yards a week, but also catches 4 passes, I mean,
Yeah, you're living good.
it's gold in a rule setting like that. Yeah, it's just great.
Yeah. Well, one thing I want to do is, first of all, I want to thank you for being on the show. Can you remind people how they can get a hold of you, either via your Twitter or X account, or
So
if they want to get more information about the charity league?
On X, you can find me at Mike Reedy FF. I write for Fantrax. I talk at Optimus Prime. So Optimus Prime, so Optimus Fantasy. I watched too many cartoons. And saw too many movies. Yeah. And that's where you can find my fantasy work. I will be publicizing the Fantasy Playoff Challenge, the NFL Playoff Challenge, at both places as well in my writing and on X a lot as we get closer. We also send out an email to everybody who played in the past, inviting them to come back. As well. So if you're interested in playing and you're watching this, reach out to me. I'll make sure I capture your email and put it in there so we can invite you when the time comes as well. You can do that now, and I'll make sure I add you. And I just want to thank you so much, Rick, for inviting me and having me on here. I think this is a fantastic idea for a show, by the way, because there's so many people out there. Prior to the show, like you were mentioning, there's people in the UK running charities, fantasy charities too. And I mean, most of us don't even know what's going on with some of these things. So it's great to spotlight some of it. I think it's really good of you to do that. And
Well, I
thank you.
appreciate that, but it's really all the great work that you and so many others who are very involved in giving back to the local community or the larger community around them. That really has been the inspiration, and I'm hoping that people hearing about this through the podcast will join some of these leagues, get their feet into the fun that they're able to do with these leagues, but also maybe even inspire them to, hey, I've got a great idea for a charity league or a charity event, and might inspire them to actually act on it. So again, it's all thanks to you and others like you that really are the inspiration for all this. I did put the information about the charity, the website, on the YouTube description, so as well as Mike's Twitter account, so that would also be a way that you could get the information to be able to reach out to Mike. And Mike, I'm sorry I cut you off.
Oh, no, thank you so much. And if anybody's looking for starting something up like that and wants to talk through process for gathering information, how do you do payments? So for this charity, they have their own PayPal account, but if you're using Venmo, it has to go to one of the people that work for the charity, and we handle it that way. Um, there's other ways you can collect money, obviously, league safe, however you want. But the process for running things, you can reach out. It's fairly simple to do stuff like this. And sometimes people just don't know where to begin, right?
Yeah.
But
And that's the cool thing also, is that this community is such a supportive community. And fact that you're willing to help people, guide them through the process, really, speaks to you as what sort of a person you are. And how great.
well, I don't know. I grew up kind of poor, and I do okay in life. And I think, if you can give back in any way, shape, or form, you probably should try to. And helping people is honestly better than giving money sometimes to things, because it's just makes everybody feel better, and it's good to know that there's somebody that'll try to help you if they can.
Awesome.
And
That's great.
most people only need if they need anything, it's like a slight point in the right direction, and they're like, yeah, I don't even need you anymore, but thank you. And that's good. It's a good thing.
Well, that's great. And Mike, it's been just such a just a fun time, but it's inspirational. I'm now going to be looking into how I can get into your league, and I hope others will as well. All the information that you provided about it makes it sound like just such a fun, and also that good feeling you get out of helping out those who are deserving. And this is a very deserving charity. So I really do appreciate you coming on the show and talking about it. And others, if you're running a charity league or charity event and you'd like to be on an upcoming show, please reach out to me. My Twitter account is right below my chin there, and love to be able to talk to you about getting you on the schedule, and increasing awareness to the work that you're doing and the charity that you're supporting. So please reach out to me. And next Tuesday night, we're hoping to have Big Draft Energy, who's going to be talking about his Big Draft Energy draftathon. So again, people, thanks for watching. And remember, be good, do good, and always look for a way to give back. And thanks, everyone. Thanks, Mike.
Thank you so much, Rick.